Good morning, class. This is today's November 7th, around almost 10 a.m. Sunday morning. I am going to give you a quick recap of what was done and the grading and all of that. And then I'm going to talk about, today's what we need to do, what we are going to do today, and what is coming up for next week. So, in terms of a quick recap, you guys submitted your profile speech about a week back, and I am here to tell you that I have graded all profile speeches. You have received three things from me. You've received a grading rubric that came to your email account, and a grading feedback and a video feedback of me on Go React. So if you go to Go React and then you go to profile speech, you'll see that, and it's private, so only you will be able to see my comment and nobody else. So you can just click on your speech and you see that my comment appears there. So that's one of the things that is done. The second thing, you guys submitted on Wednesday your challenge idea. I have reviewed it and I have given you, my comments there. Again, go to Go React. I've kind of told you, whether it works or it doesn't work. And again, those comments are also going to be just for you. I think it is private. So I have reviewed that and I have given you some suggestions or feedback. All right. So that's done. Now moving on, I will tell you a few things about first very, very technical things. In terms of your profile speech, I think very few people were not able to record. So this is what I'm going to tell you. If you are having technical problems, you're not being able to record, then the only thing and our last resort is you do we come on, give me a call and we can come on Zoom and you can do it live in front of me on Zoom, or I think that's the easiest for us to do, or we do it on FaceTime. I have FaceTime on my phone. You call me on FaceTime and you do your speech. Okay, that's the most that we can do. We have to make it work. Okay, if technology doesn't work. So that's one of the things. Some of you did receive comments on the fact that I could not hear your speech. So if I am not able to hear your speech, this is what I'm going to tell you. You have the option of course, now you know that you can load it on Go React. But after you post it, you can obviously check and see. And I would do that. I would check and see whether I have audio, my lighting is correct, my angle is correct, my words have flowed well, and you can discard it. And if you don't like it, you discard it and re-record it. All right. So, but you need to do that till you feel that it's good. So things like that have happened when there was no audio. So if you did check, then we wouldn't have spend this time just having an audio video that did not work, and you did, obviously, because that did not work, I couldn't give you feedback. So that kind of delayed us, right? So this wouldn't have been a problem had you not had you checked before posting, because you can always post and discard as many times as you want. So that's one of the things. These are technical things. In terms of your profile speech, the quality of the speech, I think all of you understood the fact that you need to have an introduction and the importance of introduction. I really liked those speeches where you just didn't begin with who you are, your name, and the speech. All right, whether you talked about silence, whether you talked about disguise, whether you talked about resilience. All right, but there was a kind of a preview, a trailer, a warm-up session in the introduction that led the audience into your speech. So I liked those speeches the most. Where you had an introduction, you used different kinds of devices there. Some of you used rhetorical questions, some of you used small little stories, anecdotes, some of you used hypothetical situations, kind of creating a mood for the audience that you desire them. If you wanted to create a sense of awareness, a sense of curiosity, you were able to do it through these devices. If you wanted to make them feel a sense of panic, a sense of discomfort, you were able to do it through these devices. And then you moved into the body of your speech, which had some kind of a conflict, some kind of a drama, and maybe some characters there. I can cite so many things. If you talked about your identity, you've talked about how how people have supported you in your, it could be a mother, it could be a friend. I think, and a lot of you made references to your family in your speech, and how they've been have kind of supported you in your in finding your identity through, or maybe in showing a chapter in your life, or that talks about disguise, or that talks about silence or resilience. Okay, so that was established in the body of the speech, and then when you move to the conclusion of the speech, there's always, and I've seen some of you really worked hard on the feedback that I gave you through your practice profile speech, and I saw that some of you had this insight, really packed hard, talking about not really wrapping up the speech, but kind of telling us 5-minute speech, people will remember what your speech is about. So you didn't focus there, and you kind of packed it all in through the insight that you have gained. I think those speeches did very well. If you've also added not only the insight, but you've kind of thought about a metaphor or a word that kind of makes it even more how do I even say this, even more poignant, even more sensitive, even more symbolic, then you've taken it even a notch higher. So those were the things that I really enjoyed in the speeches. Yeah, so that's about profile speeches. Now, moving on to the next session, which is informative speech. So here I'm going to talk to you about the fact that you guys have given me your challenge ideas. I think some of you have talked about sleeping on time. Some of you have talked about exercising. Some of you talked about eating organic food. All of hiking. These are some of the ones that I can remember. So I think all of them have, I'm glad that you want to do something for in your life. And, I also feel motivated with you, because I'm also going to be trying something new, because the such as life is always, you need to motivate yourself all the time. And so what I've just told you is that, like, I think you identified why. I think all of you said, why is it that you want to do that? That practice, that challenge in your life. But what you now need to do is, as I mentioned to you, is that, let's say you talk about sleeping at the right time, or let's say you talk about hiking, or let's say you talk about eating organic food for the next few days. Then please back it up with a source, because this will not only come out of your experience, you will hold the content here as well, just like you held the content in your profile speech. It was about a chapter in your life. I didn't know. You were the creator of the content. You lived that life, and you told us as through storytelling. Here as well, you will be doing that challenge. You hold the power. You have complete control over or ownership. I wouldn't say control, but I would say you have ownership over the content, over your content. But you got to even make it this time, which you didn't do in your last, and which wasn't required in your last one. But this time you have to now strengthen the content that you have, the challenge that you're talking about. You've got to strengthen it through sources. All right, let's say you're talking about hiking. So you're going to tell them, the benefits of hiking. Maybe if you're living in a city life, you're commuting through public transportation, and you're not really seeing the greenery, seeing, kind of looking at the whole, the natural vegetation, all of that, how that could affect somebody, and how important hiking is. And you have to really stretch yourself. When I think about hiking, I'm really thinking about physical fitness, but it could be so many other things. It could be like a form of meditation too. So those are the things you got to stretch yourself and give the audience some information that they probably haven't heard, because novelty. If you give some new information to the audience, and which strikes home with them, it's always going to get their attention, right? We all know that. But so now you got to support it. Okay, so some research on, maybe Journal of Wellness, Journal of Health will talk about the benefits of hiking, or will talk about hiking as a meditative practice. Or maybe you could also think about, how hiking has been. Is it a part of how does religion actually talk about or religion or spirituality actually talk about hiking as a spiritual practice? So many things that you can think about, but you need to whatever you choose, whatever challenge you choose, you need to support it with some journals, scholarly, popular sources. I don't care, but as long as you are able to tell me that, this is the information that came from the Journal of Wellness, or this is the information that came from this magazine, which is Outdoor Living. So you need to do that, incorporate it in your speech. All right. So that's one of the things that I think that's the feedback that I kind of, it wasn't required of you to tell me that, but I just said that, so that it drives home. You need to have some research there. So now moving to profile speech, I'm sorry, to informative speeches, I'm going to show you two prototypes. Okay. One, we're going to talk about it. So one is a speech that I will show you right now, which is Cesar Kuriyama. He's not a very well-known person, or he's talked about the reason that I chose his speech. The reason is that the speech comes closest to what I'm thinking about. Okay. Because he's actually taught, just like you are doing an exercise for the next, you're in the middle of this challenge that you're doing. Similarly, this person who you're going to watch is also doing a challenge, and he's created the challenge for himself, just like you are doing. Let's say sleeping at the right time, let's say hiking, let's say exercising. What he is doing, Cesar Kuriyama, which you will see in the speech that I'll right now show you, he is actually trying to record 1 second of his life every day. All right. And he has a reason for doing that, just like you have a reason for hiking, or you have a reason for sleeping at the right time. He has a reason to take a video of 1 second of his life for every single day in his life. Okay. And you'll see that speech. The reason I chose the speech is for a few things. All right. I think I like the idea. The fact that the challenge, he's actually living a challenge and he's talking to you, he's created a story out of that challenge. And this is exactly how I want you to think about it. The challenge that you're talking about, it should emerge as a story. It should not be like a question, answer. This is the challenge. This is what I did. This is how it's going to benefit me. It should emerge very holistically as a story. And I think this is what he attempts to do. Of course, this speech that you hear has a lot of loopholes. I'll be the first person to say that it has a lot of loopholes, and I'll tell you why. After you watch the speech, I'm going to tell you why. But I think the story is he has come up with a story, okay, of what the challenge is about, why is he doing it, and the power of his idea. All right. So I would like you to watch this thing. And another thing is that the speech is 8 minutes. It's about 8 minutes in length. Okay. So 7.5 to 8 minutes. So it's pretty close to how much I would like you to think about. Like if I could condense that speech, I could even condense it to 5 minute speech. All right. So that's another thing that I wanted to tell you, is that in terms of time also, it's the closest that I could get. So I wanted to show you this. And power of his idea, the length of the speech was not as I had desired. I actually wanted a 5 minute speech, but this is the closest that I could get to. And the fact that he also picks a challenge just like you have, and he shows us what he went through, why he chose the challenge, and what he went through with this challenge. So without much ado, I'm going to show you that video right now. And I'm going to do a screen share because I already queued it for you. However, where did I do? Is it here? Not this one. This is another one that I did for you. Yeah, I got it. So I'm going to screen share it with you. There you go. And here it is.
So I'm an artist. I live in New York, and I've been working in advertising ever since I left school, so about 7-8 years now. And it was draining. I worked a lot of late nights. I worked a lot of weekends, and I found myself never having time for all the projects that I wanted to work on my own. And one day I was at work and I saw a talk by Stefan Sagmeister on TED. It was called The Power of Time Off. And he spoke about how every 7 years, he takes a year off from work so he could do his own creative projects. And I was instantly inspired. And I just said, I have to do that. I have to take a year off. I need to take time to travel and spend time with my family and start my own creative ideas. So the first of those projects ended up being something I called 1 second every day. Basically, I'm recording 1 second of every day of my life for the rest of my life. Chronologically compiling these 1 second tiny slices of my life into one single continuous video until, I can't record them anymore. The purpose of this project is, one, I hate not remembering things that I've done in the past. There's all these things that I've done with my life that I have no recollection of, unless someone brings it up, and sometimes I think, oh yeah, that's something that I, did. And something that I realized early on in the project was that if I wasn't doing anything interesting, I would probably forget to record the video. So the first time that I forgot, it really hurt me, because it's something that, I really wanted to, from the moment that I turned 30, I wanted to keep this project going until, forever. And having missed that 1 second, I realized it just kind of created this thing in my head where I never forgot ever again. So if I live to see 80 years of age, I'm going to have a 5-hour video that encapsulates 50 years of my life. When I turn 40, I'll have a 1-hour video that includes just my 30s. This has really invigorated me day to day when I wake up to try and do something interesting with my day. Now, one of the things that I have issues with is that as the days and weeks and months go by, time just seems to start blurring and blending into each other. And, I hated that. And visualization is the way to trigger memory.
Things
This project for me is a way for me to bridge that gap and remember everything that I've done. Even just this 1 second allows me to remember everything else that I did that one day. It's difficult sometimes to pick that 1 second. On a good day, I'll have maybe 3 or 4 seconds that I really want to choose, but I'll just have to narrow it down to one. But even narrowing it down to that one allows me to remember the other 3 anyway. It's also kind of a personal protest against the culture we have now, where people just are at concerts with their cell phones out, recording the whole concert, and they're disturbing you. They're not even enjoying the show. They're watching the concert through their cell phone. I hate that. I admittedly used to be that guy a little bit back in the day. And I've decided that the best way for me to still capture and keep a visual memory of my life and not be that person is to just record that 1 second that will allow me to trigger that memory of, yeah, that concert was amazing. I really loved that concert. And it just takes a quick second. I was on a 3-month road trip this summer. It was something that I've been dreaming about doing my whole life. Just driving around the US and Canada and just figuring out where to go the next day. And it was kind of outstanding. I actually ran out. I spent too much money on my road trip for the savings that I had to take my year off. So I went to Seattle and I spent some time with friends working on a really neat project. One of the reasons that I took my year off was to spend more time with my family. And this really tragic thing happened where my sister-in-law, her intestines suddenly strangled one day, and we took her to the emergency room, and she was in really bad shape. We almost lost her a couple of times, and I was there with my brother every day. And it helped me realize something else during this project, is that recording that 1 second on a really bad day is extremely difficult. It's not, we tend to take our cameras out when we're doing awesome things, or this party, let me take a picture. But we rarely do that when we're having a bad day and something horrible is happening. And I found that it's actually been very, very important to record even just that 1 second of a really bad moment. It really helps you appreciate the good times. It's not always a good day, so when you have a bad one, I think it's important to remember it just as much as it is important to remember the bad days. Now, one of the things that I do is I don't use any filters. I don't use anything I try to capture the moment as much as possible as the way that I saw it with my own eyes. I started a rule of first-person perspective. Early on, I think I had a couple of videos where I would, you see me in it, but I realized that wasn't the way to go. The way to really remember what I saw was to record it as I actually saw it. Now, a couple of things that I have in my head about this project are, wouldn't it be interesting if thousands of people were doing this? I turned 31 last week, which is there. I think it would be interesting to see what everyone did with a project like this. I think everyone would have a different interpretation of it. I think everyone would benefit from just having that 1 second to remember every day. Personally, I'm tired of forgetting, and this is a really easy thing to do. I mean, we all have HD capable cameras in our pockets right now, most people in this room, I bet. And it's something that's, I never want to forget another day that I've ever lived, and this is my way of doing that. And it'd be really interesting also to see if you could just type in on a website like June 18th, 2018, and you would just see a stream of people's lives in that particular day from all over the world. And I don't know, I think this project has a lot of possibilities, and I encourage you all to record just a small snippet of your life every day so you can never forget it that day you lived. Thank you.
All right. So you watched the speech. So, okay. So why did I make you watch this speech? A few things. All right. Let me talk about the strong things first. Okay. And some third things that I wanted to use this speech as an example of things that you maybe should be thinking about. Okay. And I've mentioned it to you, this is a challenge that you're going to be living for the next, from November. Actually, let me see. I think it started from November 1st. Yeah, so it started from November 1st. November 1st till the end of the challenge is November 14th. So you have about 14 days to do this challenge. So now whatever challenge you have chosen, okay, whatever challenge you have chosen, could be hiking, could be sleeping at the right time, could be exercising, whatever challenge, could be one of you mentioned you want to work on building a calendar for yourself, getting organized to creating calendar, whatever challenge you have chosen. It needs to be embedded in a story. And how do you do that? When I'm talking about embedded in a story, that means think about this challenge. Okay, it's like this leaf that you have. Okay, it needs a place for you to rest it. Okay, and the resting place is the story. All right, so there's the way you can do it is, again, the introduction. You saw Cesar Kuriyama also have an introduction in his speech, perhaps not the best introduction, but he actually talks about what really made him think about this idea. The fact that his boss talks about, he hears his a colleague or a boss that he talks about, he's basically Cesar Kuriyama is a marketing executive, works in New York, and he hears a talk about the importance of taking time off. And that he starts thinking about that. And then he thinks about, the importance of the taking the time off and understanding the essence of it. And then he kind of pulls us from that point to his idea Okay. The importance of time off, that means for us, we are thinking about it in different ways right now. When I hear somebody saying the importance of taking time off, I'm thinking about it in terms of maybe leisure, maybe giving my brain some resting time, making some space for creativity, making some space for maybe social connections that I've lost in all this, the rut of everyday life. I'm thinking about it in so many ways. Now, you will also be thinking about it in different ways. Maybe, and the way I am going to think about, as opposed to Ursula or as opposed to Joey in our class, is because three of us are different, and we will think and we will interpret situations in a different way because our life experience and our lived experience is different. So the power of time, he starts talking about the power of time off, and then he slowly pulls us into his topic, which is recording 1 second of his life every day. All right. So you have to also think about it in this way. You've already chosen a challenge, and I'm sure you know why, which you already told me why you've chosen the challenge. So in the introduction, I would suggest that have some kind of a hook for us. All right. The fact that this guy, Caesar Kuriyama, had the power of time off, and then he creates that metaphor there that leads the audience to go in different directions, kind of making us curious, making us get into a mood that he desires, and then slowly taking us into his idea, which is taking 1 second video of his life every day. Do you think you will be able to do that in the introduction? Using a metaphor, it could be using a powerful metaphor like, they're taking a time off and then moving us to the topic that you want to, or to the challenge that you want to talk about. Or it could be a string of rhetorical questions. You ask some questions to the audience, which will make them start thinking about your challenge, your idea. Okay. Maybe establish a need. You can think about it in so many ways. This is not math or science. This is like creativity at its best. You can think about it in so many different ways. Okay. You can create a sense of need. You can create a sense of panic. You can create a sense of beauty. You can create a sense of expectation. All of that can be, it's a strategic choice of the speaker to do that in the introduction. But you don't begin with, this is my name and this is what the challenge is about. You got to situate the challenge somewhere, and that's the beginning of your story. All right. So that's the introduction. Then after you do that, you move into the body of your speech, which is the challenge in itself. You at that point tell me, what is it that you're doing? The tactics of it, what is it that you're doing? How are you doing it? Tell me about, whether are you getting success out of it? Are there days when you don't feel that good about the project? Are there days when you are able to do it? Are there days when you just forgot about it? Okay. Why? And what would you do different? So all of that, again, this is not a question answer. You don't need to put your body of the speech as a question answer. It has to emerge very smoothly, as if you're telling us a story of, this is what I did in a hiking. The first day I went out and I felt that, the weather is cold. It's kind of snippy outside a little bit, and I just didn't feel motivated. The second day I tried something different. I put my earpods and then I started thinking about, I was listening to some podcasts, and it kind of, and I felt that the initial obstacle of just me stepping out of the house, that was, I found something to motivate me, something like that. It has to emerge as a story. And then you put in, why am I doing this? Because I felt that even this research talks about how hiking can be meditative, how it could be a spiritual experience. The Journal of Psychology, or the Journal of this religion talks about this, or spirituality talks about this. This is the way you got to approach it. You got to put in those sources there. You got to put it in as a story. The whole challenge has to be the body of your speech. Okay. So you establish that. You don't have to, a lot of time. You establish that in 3 minutes. Take about 3 minutes to establish your story there. All right. I would have 2 minutes I would have 1 minute for the introduction. I would have about 3 minutes for the body, and I would have about 1 minute for the conclusion. So after you talk about your challenge, all right, then move into the conclusion. And the conclusion, as I told you, even for your profile speech, doesn't need to be a wrap up and summary of what you said before. 5-minute speech, you really don't need triggers for the audience to remember. They'll remember. 5 minutes is short enough, for them to remember. So what you need to do is, again, provide an insight into your experience. Tell us, how do you now think about hiking? How have you redefined it? How do you look at it now? Or how do you look at, your organization? And what is your mantra for organization? Something new that has emerged through your challenge. You can, and that's the insight that you share with the audience. Again, start thinking about some powerful metaphors, some words, some phrases that kind of, you create those words. I'm not talking about creating a new word that doesn't have any meaning, but think about some new words, some words that really, just hammer your insight. Do that in the introduction, do that in the conclusion. Maybe if you want to repeat that those metaphors are one word, one powerful word that you're using, and you use it in your introduction, you use it a little bit in your body, and you use it in the conclusion, that kind of creates a sense of balance and harmony, because it kind of creates a sense of balance for the speaker, for the audience, and creates a sense of proportion too. All right. So you can think about those things, and that's how you do your speech. Now, what I will be getting into, I'm going to share the tactics of the speech. All right. So I just said, this is what really importantly, what I just said is the most important part. That's how you're going to think about it. But now what I'm going to share with you is the slides, and that will, that will tell you. 1 second here. Here we go. So here, I just saw that I didn't share it with you. All right, 1 second. Here. All right. So as you see, I just talked to you about the introduction. This is the informative speech. Sorry, here. For informative speech, this whole slide is on your Blackboard site. So go to instructor PowerPoints and you'll get this right away. All right. But I'm still sharing it with you here. So I think you should be good. Some of the sample challenges were the ones that have been mentioned here. I think most of you did it from here. Some of you tried something different, which is fine with me, whatever works for you or your lifestyle. And I just told you this importance of an introduction. Spend about a minute there, minute and a half if you need to spend more time. Again, creating that sense of, put in some metaphors, some language use, some imaginative situations, some rhetorical questions. This is your time to really warm up the audience, for them to hear your challenge, which comes up in your, the body of the speech. I have mentioned this to you again. These are just, if you respond to this, or if you type it down, just like a question answer format, the speech is going to really sound drab. So you don't want to, these are some talking points just to help you to, when you're making those notes, okay, these are certain things which will help you create that story. But if you do this as, this is my challenge, this is how this is why the people need to know about it. And if you do it like a question answer format, it's really going to sound drab. But these are your talking points. These are things that you need to have in your speech, but again, make it as creative, as dramatic, as human as possible. All right. So that's the informative, that's the body of your speech. And finally, the conclusion, the insight. What have you gained out of this challenge? What shift happened in your mind? Did you have now, do you think, have you found, have you felt grit, or did you actually find spirituality through this experience? Did you find connection through this experience? Did you find sense of discipline through this? Tell us, what is it that you gained? Use metaphors, use words that kind of make it really inspiring for us. Okay, so redefine how if you talked about food, redefine. If you talked about going organic, if you've done that, then tell us, what is this new relationship that you have found with food by going organic? So these are some of the examples, because now I know the challenge ideas that you have mentioned. These are some of the ways that you can do it. Okay, so I'm going to stop this slide right now. And the next thing that I'm going to do is, again, I really liked this speech. I'm sorry. I'm going to show you a speech, which I liked in terms of, how it was organized, how beautiful it sounded. I'm going to show that to you in a bit. But now talking about, the first speech, the Caesar Kuriyama's 1 second everyday speech. I told you what I liked about it. Now let me tell you the things that I didn't like about it. I felt that the organization was slightly choppy. It seemed like some of the connections were missing when he was talking about clearly he's trying to tell us that the fact that he did this experiment was because he felt that his memory was fading and he didn't remember every day in his life. And this was the best way. Visualization is the best way to trigger a memory. So he talks about this experiment. By the way, class, when I actually did research on this guy, Caesar Kuriyama, and I saw, because I wanted to know what, has he organized a movement? Was this idea that powerful enough that people have started following him? What's the deal there? So I didn't see any of that. I did see that this guy, Caesar Kuriyama, has an app that kind of, if you install that app, it lets you record 1 second of your life as a video. And then, let's say you record 1 second of your life every day. It puts everything together. And let's say you've been doing this for 6 months or 7 months, and you see a video of that. That's pretty cool. I would like it. So he sells this app. So that's how. And then there's nothing else that I heard about him. All right. So this is what I said, like his whole speech. I felt that it was, the introduction was good. It had the powerful metaphors, the importance of taking time off. I think that was a good strategy for us to, understand where what he wants to talk about and create that sense of interest or curiosity. Well done on that one. But then when he talks about, the speech, the exercise, the body of his speech, I felt that the organization is slightly choppy. I mean, he could have had more consistency. It seems to me a little bit that he is somewhere, not all over the place. I won't say that, but he is going in different directions, and it just didn't seem very organized, right? So I felt that the organization could have been better. I felt that he had the potential to use different kinds of words, create powerful metaphors. He had the potential to do that, but he really didn't. There were some moments of spark or insight in his speech, but it could have been better. Then finally, which is not the last part, it's really not a critique of him, because he wasn't a student in my class, and I really didn't ask him to write a informative speech. So, but this is it's a teachable moment for me to talk to you about this. If you notice the conclusion of his speech, it just seemed that it's persuasive. He's actually asking people to hold their cell phones, and he said, everybody has recording devices. Why don't you all record 1 second of his life? In informative speech, you typically don't do that. You don't ask the audience to take an action. If your idea is that powerful, if I feel that organization, as Joey talks about, or as Ibrahim talks about, the whole eating organic food, or how Ursula talks about hiking, or how Priscilla talks about sleeping at the right time. If the idea is that good, strong, and they've been able to establish that very well, I might just do that. But if they come and tell me that, let everybody in this class, including Dr. Sen, everybody has to do what, why don't you do this? Why don't you sign up and do this? That's going to be persuasive. And I would say that this is not informative speech. You got to have an informative speech, and you're not, let me take the decision. If your idea is that powerful, I will make a decision, right? So this is what, this is something that you may want to think about, that you need to keep it persuasive. I'm sorry, keep it informative, and not really ask the audience to do something because of your speech. So make sure you think about that. Okay, so these are some of the things that I felt that emerged as a critique of his speech. So now I'm going to show you another speech, which I'll also enjoy with you, because it's about a 19-minute speech. So that's the reason I shied away from from showing you that speech, but I might as well because I haven't talked to you all in a while. So I'll just show this to you and I'll tell you what worked out well in the speech. Okay. So here we are. I actually have queued it for all of you. Let me see. Yeah, this is the one.
The New York Times calls Gabrielle Bernstein a role model for a new generation of spiritual seekers. She once told me she believes her purpose is to help others tune in to their own inner voice. And on her blog, Gabby tackles everything from spiritual tips on how to quit sugar to handling negative comments to meditations for preventing a freak out moment. Gabrielle's session is called The Universe Has Your Back. Gabrielle Bernstein. New Year's Day of 2015, I had a plan. My plan was to get pregnant. I had it down. It was perfect. I was going to get pregnant right away in February. I was going to take the entire 9 months to write my book, The Universe Has Your Back. And I was going to give birth in the fall and then have the baby, give birth, submit the book, then take 3 months off with my baby and go on a book tour. Perfect plan, right? Perfect plan. The only problem was I wasn't getting pregnant. Month after month, I wouldn't get pregnant and I'd start counting 9 months ahead. I'd start looking at what I had ahead of me. I'd start thinking, okay, I've got this speaking engagement. I've got this contract I've got to deal with. And I started canceling those contracts and canceling those speaking engagements. I started driving my publishers crazy because I was trying to change the publication date of the book. I was driving my husband crazy because there's absolutely nothing sexy about trying to make a baby happen on your timeline. And I'm driving myself crazy because I'm trying to control something that I absolutely cannot control. But all the while, I'm telling my friends and my family members that I'm consciously conceiving. I was consciously controlling every detail. And 6 months go by, and I'm still not pregnant. At this point, I start to worry. I'm getting older. My body isn't working. There's something wrong with me. I start to feel this sense of shame. But I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not telling anybody how I'm feeling. Every time I go on Instagram or Facebook, I see more bumps and more babies, and I feel separate and I feel alone. And I begin to compare myself to everyone around me. To make matters worse, I had prematurely announced my pregnancy to my friends and my family members. I even went as far as to get on my stages publicly and tell my students that I was planning to conceive. And this got really bad. It got so bad that I was at a book signing and this young woman grabs my hand and she walks up to me as she asks me to sign her book. And she says, you know, Gabby, I've been channeling your spirit baby and she has a message for you. This really pushed me over the edge. 6 more months go by. It's New Year's Eve. I'm at a dinner with all of my college friends and they all have at least one child, maybe a second on the way. Another couple had adopted a child. And I'm sitting around this dinner table and I'm looking at everybody prepare their kids for dinner and get them ready for bed. And I'm feeling like I'm behind. I'm missing out on this stage of life and I'm not feeling good enough. I wake up the next day, New Year's Day, a full year later, and I got my period. I spent a year trying to make this thing happen. I spent a year trying to make my body do something that it's not going to do. I'm feeling that shame. I'm feeling that inadequacy, that separation. I'm not good enough. I can't make this happen. Thankfully, I had a friend staying with me, my friend Jordan, a very great spiritual running buddy of mine. And Jordan looked at me and he noticed my depression and my sadness. And he looked at me and he said, honey, what is wrong with you? And I said, well, you know, Jordan, I couldn't make it happen. My body isn't working. I can't make it happen on my timeline. I tried to change everything around. It wasn't working. Honey, stop. This is not how we do things. Ask the universe for help. It was one of those divine spiritual encounters when I was ready to listen. And I said, thank you, Jordan. I'm ready to hear that. I'm ready to receive that. And I excused myself and I walked upstairs to my meditation pillow and I sat down in my Zen den and I got really grounded. And I asked the universe for help. I went into my meditation and I began to feel my extremities tingle and my arms go numb, and I started to connect to that presence of a higher power of my own understanding, that reliable presence that is so familiar, the presence of love and magnitude that is within me. And I started to connect and get grounded and aligned. And in that alignment, I heard this voice come forward, this voice of my intuition, this voice of my inner wisdom. And that voice said to me, your plans are in the way of God's plans. It's time to surrender. At which point I feel this energy begin to move me and lift me up and bring me to my desk. And I sit down at my desk and involuntarily I place my hands on the keyboard of my computer and my fingers just start typing. And they're moving and they're moving. And all of a sudden at the top of the page, the words that were not mine came onto the page. These are the steps for spiritual surrender. Okay. So I just let my fingertips continue to go for 30 minutes. My fingers just glided across that computer screen and I just let the words come onto the page, and words that were not mine, ideas that were not mine, belief systems, guidance, wisdom that was not mine came onto this page. And within that half-hour period of time, I channeled the 5 steps for spiritual surrender. The exact steps that I needed, the exact messages that I was looking for, the guidance, the wisdom, the connection. I channeled the steps. But now I had to become brave enough to wonder what would happen if I step back and let the universe take the lead. We all have to become brave enough to wonder. Every single one of us in this room today is trying to control something. You know what I'm talking about? You all know what it is. Maybe you're trying to control that ring that you're trying to get on your finger, or maybe you're trying to control when you're going to get that cash in the bank, or maybe you're trying to control the outcome of a physical diagnosis. But all that control and all that manipulation, all that trying to make something happen is creating resistance. Resistance from the alignment, resistance from that intuitive voice that is beckoning you all the time, resistance from your connection to a power far greater than yourself, a magnitude that is within you that you have forgot to listen to because you've been too busy focused on what you need to get. But it's in the absence of that resistance that we realign. It's in the absence of that resistance that we remember the truth of who we are. It's in the absence of that resistance that we get connected to the universe. And the universe is an ever-present energy of love that is within us and around us and always guiding us. And it's through these steps of spiritual surrender that we realign, that we reconnect with that magnitude and that presence. And we let go of what we think we need and we remember the truth of who we are. So I have a question for you all. Are you ready to surrender? Great. I am here today to give you these 5 steps that I have been using over the past year. These steps have grounded me. They've realigned me. Thank you for getting your notebooks out, people. Get ready. I have been using these steps to get reconnected, realigned, and rebooted in a sense. And these are the steps to spiritual surrender so that you can know that the universe has your back, even when things are not working out the way that you expected. You ready? Step one. Take your hands off the wheel through prayer. Many of you are praying for that cash, or praying for that relationship, or praying for that outcome to be exactly as you want it to be in the time that you want it to happen. But the secret to prayer is to forget what you think you need. When we begin to stop praying for what we think we need, but instead begin to pray for what is of the highest good for all. That's when we get lit up. That's when invisible doors begin to open for us. That's when we align with the truth and the magnitude of the presence of our authentic power. So take that in. Doesn't that just feel awesome just to say that? I want to pray for what is of the highest good for all. Doesn't that feel awesome? To even think about that thing that you've been controlling and holding on to and simply say to yourself right now, you know what? I'm just going to pray for what's of the highest good for all. Takes the pressure off, right? Yeah. The second step is to start to focus on what's thriving. We focus so much on what's not working. We so focus on the absence of something. Why don't we focus on what's already thriving in our lives? When I started to take the focus off of this baby that I thought I needed to manifest in this exact amount of time and started focusing on the beauty in my marriage, focusing on my physical well-being, focusing on the spiritual journey that I needed to go on, I began to uncover things about myself I didn't even know. And I started to let myself off the hook and realign and get connected. And I started to feel that pressure of needing that thing just dissipate. So when you begin to take your focus off of that thing you need and start to focus on what is already thriving, let me just say something to you all. You are thriving because you are at Super Soul Sessions today, okay? You are thriving right now. You were playing the drums this morning with Oprah, okay? You are good. Let's focus on that. The third step, obstacles or detours in the right direction. So what I realized was that this obstacle of not getting pregnant right away was actually a detour in the right direction. It was a detour towards my spiritual connection. It was a detour towards hitting another bottom in my life so that I could have another awakening. Rumi says that the wound is the place where the light enters you. In that wound, I was awakened and I was given these steps that I was blessed with, and this journey of developing my spiritual condition in a way that I needed to really badly. And that obstacle of not getting pregnant was exactly as it needed to be. My baby was up there going, not now. And we had a plan, and I needed to go through this journey. So maybe you can begin to look at your obstacles of maybe that divorce is an opportunity, a detour in the right direction, an opportunity to start to love yourself some more. Maybe that loss of that job is an opportunity to begin to do that thing you've been dreaming of. Maybe that diagnosis is an opportunity to get closer to God. Take that in. Let's reorganize your obstacles right now. What are the opportunities? What is the detour in the right direction? In what way can you begin to turn it upside down and see it as an opportunity to thrive and an opportunity to get more connected to the truth? The fourth step, ask for a sign. We are always in communication with the universe. The universe is always giving us messages. It's just that we're not listening. But when we ask, we will always receive. It's the law. We will receive. So asking for a sign that you're in the right direction, that you're on the right path. Just last month, I had to ask for a sign. I took 2016 off from trying to make a baby. I was just needing that break. I wanted to get back into my alignment with my truth. And then last month, I decided it's time. Let's make a baby. So I was getting into it and I was getting ready, and I saw myself like clockwork go right back to that old story, right back into my next book's coming out at this time, and what's going on with my calendar, and can my team handle this, and is everybody on board with my idea and my vision? But thankfully, I'd been spending the year in my 5 steps to spiritual surrender, so I had a little bit more information, and I was able to stop myself in my tracks. So I stopped myself, and I just said, thank you, universe, for showing me a sign that I'm in the right direction. Later that day, I'm looking out the window of my office and I see these 5 fat, wild turkeys just hanging out outside my office. They're just chilling outside my office. And I'm just in awe of these wild turkeys. They're so beautiful. I sat there for like a half an hour just staring at them. 2 hours later, I'm in my meditation and I'm just doing my thing in my meditation. And I hear my intuition say, Google the spiritual meaning of turkeys. Okay. So I come out of my meditation, I go to my computer and I type in, what is the spiritual meaning of turkeys? The spiritual meaning of turkeys is fertility. That was the exact message that I needed to hear. And when we allow ourselves to get into the wonder and the magnificence of the guidance that is around us and within us, that's when we truly start living. The universe once again was guiding me. So ask for a sign and you will receive. And it is your job to listen, people. Because you all may be asking for your signs and you may be getting your messages, but you're not listening. So ask and listen. Give yourself the chance to truly listen and take that spiritually aligned action from that place of that wisdom. And the final step, the fifth step, is when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. My favorite line from A Course in Miracles is, those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. That presence of certainty is available to all of us when we get aligned, when we truly surrender, when we ask and listen and let the universe show us where to go and what to do. Let's say a prayer. Let's offer it up. Let's surrender some more. Are you willing to pray with me? Okay, so let's uncross our legs. Place your palms facing upward. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and release. We call on the guidance of the highest truth and compassion to enter into this space today. Thank you, universe, for taking from us what we are now willing to give away. Think of that thing that you've been holding on to, that situation, that area of your life that you are willing to offer up. And we pray. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? Thank you, universe, for taking this, reorganizing this, and showing us where to go. Take a deep breath in and release. And when you're ready, open your eyes. This is my daily prayer. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? This beautiful message from A Course in Miracles. Take that home with you. Use that prayer, offer it up, surrender it fully and completely. As it turns out, the universe had a plan far greater than I did. The plan wasn't that I was going to get pregnant in the exact moment in time that I expected. The plan was that I was going to learn how to mother myself before I could be a mother. We are living in times where it is required of us to have a spiritual foundation, an anchor, a sense of alignment. If we don't have that foundation, we will be flailing. We need that connection now, and it is through the steps of spiritual surrender that you realign with that connection to the universe, to a higher power of your own understanding. We need it to survive and to thrive. And these are the messages that I will leave my child. When my child is ready to come, I will bestow upon her that her true power lies in her connection to the universe. And in that connection, when she surrenders to that connection, she can know that she will be certain no matter what. That in the midst of uncertainty, she can find safety. And that in that connection and in that alignment, she can always know that the universe has her back. Thank you.
All right. So you heard this speech as well. It's pretty long. I always want to show you something short because you guys have about 5 minutes. But I want to know, in the spirit of language skills, what we have been doing in the chapter, which is chapters 15 and 16, and you also did chapter 18 as well in your online textbook. So what do you think about language use? I mean, this was such a speech, completely, uh, I think language was the pivotal part of her speech. The amount of metaphors, it was so rich in terms of language use. The words that she has used kind of creates, and when I say that the words that she's used, it's almost like those powerful words that you hear in the speech, and you have to identify which were the powerful words. All right. You tell me which words made the biggest impact on you. And when I want you to think about impact, I want you to think about um, almost one meaning that you got out of the word, and then it opens another door to another meaning. It's like almost one window. You open that window and it leads to another window. You open that window and it leads to another window. So it's one window and another window and another window. The meanings keep evolving. What were some of the words that kind of generated that sense of really textured, rich meaning for you? So I want you to think about that. The reason I showed you the speech is because she also, if you think about the whole speech as an informative speech, this was an informative speech. It was inspirational, but it was informative. She gave us the 5 steps of doing things that kind of, all the 5 steps, if you think of those 5 steps, would take us to the main title of her speech, which is "The Universe Has Your Back." If you do those five steps that she talked about, she basically gives a description of this, what those 5 steps are, and she says if you do that, you'll see that you'll almost feel that yes, the universe has my back. So it was informative speech. She gives us 5 steps. All right. Now she could have made this really sound very, very drab, very boring. These are the things that one these are the things that one needs to do. Throw in some words which would be completely philosophical, but it won't really strike a balance or strike a chord within us. It could have gone that way. But did you see the way she was doing it? She, every time she gave us point 1 or point 2 or point 3 or point 4, point 5, there were 5 points. She was giving us a situation. All right. Something that we tend to do. Something like she says, when you pray, we usually always pray for us, for ourselves, for, it's always very finite. Me, I want to get happiness. I want to get that job. I want to feel good. It has to be, when I'm praying, it's always going to be about me. But how many of us actually pray for that highest good? And she kind of just changed that. So she talked about, so what she did, if you see just one example, is the things that we usually do. So when she said that, sometimes, and it kind of connected with me, I thought about it. Yeah, when I pray, do I actually think only about myself? I've stopped doing that for a while now, but that would be me maybe 10 years back. I would be thinking about, my job, my life, my health, my parents. It would always be those things in my prayer. I stopped doing that before even hearing her speech for a while now. Then I think about the highest good. So the reason is that she gave us an example that allowed us to connect with her and let us know, yes, that sounds true. That's what we call is narrative probability. That this could happen. This is something that yeah, maybe I haven't done it, but maybe I can imagine somebody else do it. It is probable. Narrative fidelity. When this example that she says, it sounds true. That's how she creates a connection first with the audience. And then she says that let's pray for the highest. She talks about praying for the highest good. All right. So going back to your informative speech, you have only 5 minutes. Okay. So within that time, when you get into the body of your speech, it should not, and I've been telling you, should not sound as point 1, point 2. This is what you need. I got up in the morning. This should sound like, you everything that you do, make it sound like a story. make it sound relatable, make it sound as if, you're us actually talking to the audience. Have you guys ever gone on a hike and you felt that you wanted to go on a hike and you just didn't feel good enough to get out of the bed and, wear your running shoes and go? That is something people will be able to align with you, right? I mean, at some point in our lives, we may have done that, right? So that's how you connect with the audience, and then you give us what you're doing. That's a mark for good speech. Use language. Look at the ways that she's used metaphors and words. So now what I want you to do is, I would like you to do a few things. All right. So now your homework is, you know that your final final informative speech is due on the 14th of November, which is a week from today. All right. But what I want you to do is, I want you to write a draft of the speech. Okay. I want you to write a draft of the speech, write it down, type it all out. All right. And then I want you to go to GoReact and put it there. Okay. So here we go. So then that needs to be done. I'll give you some time. Because I would like you to make changes as well. So a midpoint, which is around the 11th. All right. So by the 11th of November, I want you to now write the draft of your informative speech. I haven't given you a whole lot of homework or anything, as you can see, because I really want you to focus on writing a good informative speech. All right. It needs to be about, you have 5 minutes. It needs to be at the minimum 600 words and at the maximum 900 words. Okay. And I'm giving you this count because I really don't care about the count, but I've seen that a lot of speeches are getting done within 3 minutes, and that's not what I want. Okay. I need you to have a substantial amount of, those 5 minutes, use those. The problem should be, I have so much to say, and 5 minutes is short. So I want that problem to happen as opposed to not having enough to talk about. So then I'm just saying, but you need to have that 5 minutes, because I won't let you go beyond 5 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes, 30 seconds. And I won't let you go beyond lesser than 4 minutes, 30 seconds. All right. So have that number in mind. All right. And I want you to write the speech. All of you should write the speech. And what you need to do, I'm going to do it right in front of you. And this is, I'm sorry, here. Oh, okay, 1 second. I'm trying to get it. No, where did it go now? I think I may have closed the window, but that's okay. GoReact. Yep. Yeah, I'm here. Screen share, GoReact, dashboard. Okay, so this is your class. I'm creating an assignment. So I will call this practice informative speech. And I will make it private. And the due date is Thursday. All right, Thursday, and that should give you enough time. And Thursday, 11:59 p.m. And then you can make changes to it later on when you give me your final draft. Oh, what did you even do that? All right, here we go. And create assignment and practice informative speech. And here I will give you instructor direction. All right. So continue to recorder. Okay. All right, dear viewer. All right, so what you need to do, class, okay, record. So what you need to do, class, is you need to use this space, all right, here. I think it should be, you should be able to, if this doesn't give you enough place for you to write the whole speech, you can also use the end note here. And you just saw me doing it, all right? So you just use the end note, as I mentioned to you here, and then type all your speech here, okay? So it needs to be at least 600 words to 800 to 900 words. Okay, now I'm giving you this, okay, because I have seen that, sometimes your speeches are just 3 minutes and it doesn't make any, that means you're only doing 60% of your speech. So make sure that you use those 5 minutes of talking time, all right? So make sure you give me write it down, type out your whole speech here. And then what you need to do is once you type it out, then you use the video function and video record your 5-minute informative speech. Few things: needs to have a solid introduction. All right, I've told you things that worked out. You watched, there were 2 speeches that I asked you to watch today in this video. You watched Cesar Kuriyama's speech. It had an introduction. It had a metaphor, the power of time off. You heard Gabrielle's speech. She's a motivational speaker. You heard her speech. It was about 19 minutes long, but you heard her speech as well. And you heard the introduction of her speech. She also talks about, it's an informative speech of, how the universe actually has your back. And she tells us that you can do that through 5 steps. She gives us, 5 steps of making sure that the universe has your back. So it's an informative speech, about 19 minutes long, but you also look at the way she has used the introduction, and her language, her metaphors. And I've told you, think about the words that she's used and, the kind of language that she's used. I'm not asking you to copy it. That's not what I'm, why I've showed you this videos. I'm just asking you to kind of understand the importance of words, the importance of using language, the importance of, the delivery skills that she had in her whole speech, the way she was articulating her whole voice, modulation, her body language, her hand gesture, all of that. I think those were very strong skills that you can think about. Okay. So all of that body, I would like to see in the introduction, how are you using language? What kind of metaphors are you using? What strategies, what devices are you using? Are you using hypothetical situations? Are you using rhetorical questions? Are you using some metaphors, powerful metaphors that kind of gets the audience into the mood? Then when you're giving us the main story, the main challenge that you've lived within the body of your speech, I want to see, whether it seems it should, every step that you talk about, it should emerge as a story. All right. You need to connect. You cannot forget that at any point that you're disconnected from the audience. So whenever you say something, and I'm not saying that like obsessive doing it, but you should remember that I'm not going to lose the touch with my audience. When I talk about this, I will make sure that this is why the audience needs to hear this, because maybe, I'm going to create a point of contact there. Hey guys, are you listening to me? Maybe introduce a rhetorical question for them to think about. Have you all done this? Have you seen doing this, not waking up at the right time and feeling really sluggish or something? So kind of every time you're talking about an idea, always try to touch base, always try to, touch base with the audience there. Create that point of contact where the audience feels, hey, that sounds true. That's narrative fidelity. That sounds true. It could happen to me in my life. This is quite possible. Narrative probability. This is possible in my life. Create those points of contact within the main body of your speech, and then move on to the conclusion where you don't need to summarize. 5-minute speech, audience remembers enough. They don't need to have a reminder from you remembering the main things of their speech. They don't need that. But what they want from you is an insight. The insight has to be there. So you need to have an insight that you've gained. Go through my PowerPoint slides that I've posted on your Blackboard. Go through that. I've kind of told you, how do you, certain things that I've actually, even in the video, you'll see that I have shared those slides with you. So see, how do you build a conclusion? How do you recreate a connection with the audience? The audience you should be able to again touch them and hold their hand in the conclusion. All right, how do you do that? Through the power of your words, the power of your idea, metaphors, phrases, all of that. So all of that needs to emerge. Few things, tactical things. Please make sure you have a lighted place where you're recording 6 feet away from the camera, as I've actually modeled and shown some of you. 6 feet away I should be able to see you more than your half bust, preferably using your hands, gestures, all of that. Okay, eye contact. Those of you who have been holding texts, big exercise copies, or no, it doesn't look good. It seems that you're not prepared with your material. So have small note cards, use your hand gestures, eye contact with the audience. I am never, as you see, whenever I teach, I'm not looking. I hate looking at my PowerPoints and talking. I am always trying to talk to you. I'm always trying to connect with you. That's my main objective. And you got to do the same thing. You got to, in your own way, but you have to connect with the audience, have that eye contact, establish that connection with your audience. And you can do that through eye contact. Okay. So you got to do that in your speech. So holding big note exercise books, not having eye contact, looking at the screen and reading out of the screen. I'll get it. You'll get it. And it doesn't matter whether I get it or not. Your heart knows that this is what you're doing. Is that the right thing to do? Absolutely not. Right? You know that. And if you're doing that, just get away from that habit. You need to know your material. Every great speaker needs about 100 times of practice. If it needs about you to 100 times practice your speech, go for it. Do it 100 times till you practice it. And the best way to do it, those of you who are feeling a sense of discomfort or feeling nervous about having that eye contact and remembering the speech, this is what you're going to do. First, forget the cameras and everything. Just do it in front of your mirror. Just do 1 minute, or you have the 5 minutes of your speech. Just do 1 minute of your speech and see whether you're having that eye contact, the gesture, the delivery skills, all of that in that 1 minute. Okay. Don't do anything for 1 minute. You see that you will be able to achieve that if you're just doing it for 1 minute. See how well you're doing that. Then it may take you 100 times, maybe not 100 times, maybe it'll take you 5, 6, 7 times to perfect that 1 minute. After you see that you're satisfied with it, move the target further. Do it for 2 minutes. 6, 7, 10 times till you achieve perfection. Move the target further, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then 5 minutes. Do it that way incrementally. It's positive motivation. You see success in the first minute, you get motivated to do it a little more. You get success again, you feel motivated to do it one more minute. Okay, so you got to do all of that. So that closes my big YouTube recording. So that's about it, class. This is the only thing that you got to do right now. Just work on your informative speech, write it down, type it up, and then post your video here. I'm going to stop. I'm going to finish this and I will post it. It gives me what you need to do, class, is you need to. So I will post it. I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to post it. All right. So it's been posted here. And then I'm going to also show you this, the final informative speech. This is the final one. Final informative speech. You will first of all, you will get some feedback from me and you will work on this feedback. I think I should be able to give it to you within like maybe Friday. And you should be able to work on your feedback and then do your final informative speech. The same speech will go, you will need to post it by the due date for that one is the 14th by 11:59 p.m. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Which is next Sunday. Done. All right. Create assignment. That's it. Is it there? Yes. Final informative speech. And okay, so I did make a mistake here. This is not, give me a second. This is not 18th. why did I make it the 18th? It is not due on the 18th. It's due on the 11th, right? So this one is due on the 11th and save and close. Yeah, now it shows. So the practice informative speech is due this Thursday on the 11th, and the final informative speech, I will give you, will hear all your speeches here, and then I'll give you my feedback, and then you will post, work on this feedback. Shouldn't be much. If you did a very good job and did thorough job for your practice one, you'll see that maybe 1 or 2 things that I'll probably tell you, which will require you to make changes worth, like maybe you need to put in maybe 20 minutes of your time at the most, if you're really good. And then final informative speech is due on November 14th, week from today at 11:59 p.m. All right, so that ends my YouTube video, and I will see you next in class. My next video should be sometime by the end of this week.